Hello squirrels and welcome to PPM6 TV. Today what it is the Zoom F6. Is this the greatest multi-channel location recorder at an affordable price on the market today? Well, let's just have a look at what the F6 offers. First, you can see it's diddy. It's not very big at all. In fact, it's petite, almost smaller than the size of my hand. However, it's firmly constructed and nicely put together. And despite its small size, it does come loaded with features and facilities. First off, it records to SD card. There it is. The first thing on our what's missing list is it's only a single SD card. Now, I'm pretty cool with the reliability of digital recorders. Although the media, of course, is vulnerable. But more to the point, I'd like a dual option, say, record to a USB stick or something, just because at the end of the day, you want to be able to give your rushes to production and they can walk away while you retain your copy of the recording. Now, it is possible to do a dual format recording because there's a USB-C slot there, and that can be active as the machine can be an audio interface and a recorder at the same time, but then that would mean recording to your laptop or possibly to an iPad. While we're on the subject, you'll have guessed that the F6 supports Windows, Mac and iOS devices on that USB-C port. So there we are. First thing that's missing might be a dual record option, but then this is a £600 recorder, not a £6,000 recorder. So we close that little door over there, which has got a nice firm feel on it. And one of the other things that's maybe missing is accessibility of that SD card, because this section at the back of the recorder is actually a Sony L series battery sled, and this is one of the great things about it. I've got here an old, you can see I'm a cheapskate, it's a Switz, not a Sony. I've got an old L series battery I used to use on my sound devices 744, and this goes straight on the back like that, and we've now got a really solid external battery source for our recorder. You can also power this from, if I undo this little flap on the bottom, there's a AA battery sled which takes 4 AA's, and the nice thing is that the Zoom will seamlessly switch between power sources. So if I've got a couple of L series and I want to change one, and I've got some AA's in there, you can do that. Take the battery off the back, it's not going to stop recording or anything like that. And you can power it down that USB-C port. So in this day of power banks for all sorts of USB devices, that's good news. So all in all, a very flexible set. Shame the L series covers the door of the thing, but I guess on a machine of this size, you can't have everything. And the L series, I mean, these are old batteries, more than 10 years old, but I put a couple of phantom powered mics in, set it recording, 9 o'clock at night. I came back 9 o'clock the next morning and it was still recording, and there was still plenty of battery life. So it is possible to do an all-day gig on an L series battery, and that's good to know. So moving on to inputs and outputs, there are 3 XLRs, nice nitric XLRs, on each side corresponding to our 6 inputs. They are mic or line, and they are proper balanced line inputs, and of course, as you can see, proper mic inputs. That's a big plus. If you're looking at the sound devices range, you have to pay quite a lot. You get some extra facilities, and maybe we'll talk about that, but you have to pay quite a lot more per mic input if it's the number of mic inputs that you are concerned about. Now, this is a standard 16-bit, 24-bit linear recorder, and in that mode it'll run up to 192K. However, it has a different party piece, which is dual ADCs and 32-bit floating point recording as an option. Now what that does is, and they're linked, when you engage 32-bit, you automatically get the dual ADCs. Now the dual ADCs, one of the ADCs handles audio at the low volume range, and the other ADC handles the audio in the high volume range, and then those two are combined to extend the dynamic range of your input. So when you select 32-bit, you're now looking at mic inputs which have a dynamic range of 131 dB. Now, to put it in perspective, my AKG CK 300B will, with a CK91 or whatever on the front of it, that will accept 132 dB acoustically before it will clip, mechanically obviously, or well, probably electrically too. So this is only 1 dB behind it. So essentially you're able to capture the whole dynamic range to within 1 dB of your microphone. And so because setting trim levels and things becomes moot. You can't do it, there should be no need to do it, because you're grabbing the whole dynamic range of the microphone in one window. Brilliant. The sound devices, they've also got multiple ADCs on their new MixPre setting systems, which have a wider dynamic range. They're claiming 142 dB. I haven't got one. I haven't been able to test that. And you are able to clip these systems. I mean, I've got a Neumann 104B, which will deliver 138 dB. So if I plug the Neumann in there and hit an enormous gong with a huge beater, then and what you'll get is a little thing on the front saying you've exceeded the system parameters, and I did just that. And then I took the waveform and looked at it in Wavelab, and it wasn't actually square. I mean, despite having exceeded the input limit, it wasn't square. Now the thing is, because if you're recording a really loud drum kit or whatever, don't put your Neumann 104B on there. Put your Shure SM7B on there, and everything will be hunky-dory. It's a really great, it's a set and forget solution, and as I think this is mostly aimed at DSLR guys. So you're mounting this on your tripod, there's a frame that goes on the top to put your DSLR on, and then you want to think about your pictures and all that stuff. So set and forget is really what this is all about in that context. Now, talking about Shure SM7Bs, I know some people love them, but they need an awful lot of gain. The mic amps in the Shure F6 are the same as the ones in the F4 and the F8. They're capable of 75 dB of gain, which is easily enough to run a Shure SM7B into. So if you want to connect 6 SM7Bs to your computer, this is probably the way to go. It's not quite as quiet. Mic amps are not quite as quiet as the ones in the MixPre, but they are plenty quiet enough for life. What else is missing? Well, limiters, and I sigh a little bit. The F4, and I will do a video, I should say, we'll do a video comparing this with the F4 in more detail, but the F4 has got digital limiters. I've got a whole video about it if you want to look at it. They're very good, but they're not analog. Now, Zoom are saying that the limiters in the, I turned it on. The limiters in the F6 are hybrids. Now, I don't know what that means. I've asked them and they haven't told me. And I'm looking at the block diagram. They do look like digital limiters to me. So that may be missing. However, I have shouted and hollered, and of course the limiters only work in linear. They only work in 16-bit and 24-bit. They shouldn't be necessary in the 32-bit. But I've shouted and hollered into them, and then looked at the waveforms and listened to the results, and the limiters are very good. So that's a definite step up. What else is missing? Well, I'd like better connectors for timecode. It's a 3.5mm jack for timecode, in and out on the same jack. I guess it's to save real estate space on there. The F4 has got BNC connectors. There's just nowhere on this to put a BNC connector. What else is missing? Well, outputs. Now, outputs, there are outputs on this, and they're on a single mini jack. If you remember, the F4 had XLRs but not balanced levels. I think this is in some ways a clearer solution. It may not be a better solution, but it's a clearer solution, because what you're saying is this is an unbalanced output on a mini jack. If you want to plug that in at line level, then that is what you get. This is first and foremost a recorder, not a mixer. But that brings me to something a little bit more seriously missing, which is these encoders here do not control the trim level of your mic amps. And that means when you're using this as a recorder, what you really want to do is you're looking at your meters on the nice bright screen, and you reach out and you adjust the mic input level on, or line input level on there, and it will take a full line input on the XLRs. But you can't do that at the moment because the gain is actually set inside the menu system, and it's not addressable on those encoders yet. Zoom, we haven't put a date on it, but they're promising in a firmware update that they will support direct adjusting of the trims in there, which I think will be brilliant. And also on the subject of menus, the menu is selectable from that button there, and then you go up and down the menu on these two buttons, up and down, and then you select the one that you want on a select button. Now, other systems, the F4 has got a rotary knob that is a rotary encoder that has got a detente on it. You can push it in and select things, and that's quicker and easier. And I'm old and I've got fat fingers, and you know, the screen is lovely, bright, great, but I'd like a bigger screen. So what's missing? A whacking big screen, but then look at the size of the blooming device. What's missing? Some ergonomic stuff around that setting. But again, I'm seeing this as a set and forget recorder. So you're doing all the setup before, you're engaging your 32-bit mode, and away you go. What about monitoring? Well, round the side you've got mini jack monitoring. I prefer a 1/4 inch jack, but I'm willing to live with that. And the level control is on the side. Some people prefer level controls on the front. There just isn't any room on the front for the level control. One neat little thing though is there are 10 monitoring setups that you can preset within the software, and then just clicking on the button cycles round the 10 setups. Let me just think, have we covered everything? Well, we've covered power, we've covered input and time code. Yeah, I think, oh yes, we've got linkable linkages between record tracks. You can do stereo, you can do M&S, you can do Ambisonic. I think there's 2 Ambisonic formats that can be recorded in here. So there's lots of flexibility in there. You've got the pull up and pulled out sample rates around 48K if you're doing a 24 frame per second shoot. Yeah, I'm beginning to struggle about what else is missing. Oh, Bluetooth. Bluetooth isn't missing. There's a dongle that can plug into the side that adds Bluetooth, so it's missing, as it were, out of the box. You've got to cough up for that, and that will allow iOS control from the Zoom app. There's also the FRC8, I think it is, which is a nice 8 linear fader control surface, which you can use with the F4 and the F8. And that will also connect, I presume, I can't remember, I did have one for review, but I think it's via USB-C. That would make sense. And or it could be Bluetooth, sorry for not remembering that. But that enables it, and it's a much nicer package, but you need a trolley, or you need to be able to have room and space. You can't be using that in the bag. So there we have it. Is this the best value multi-track location mixer around at the moment? Well, I haven't tried the MixPre, so that's a confession. But if you need the 6 inputs, you know, this is really the only game in town at the price. It's got a significant price advantage. It has got that controller addition. It has got the iOS Bluetooth control. It will need the firmware update. I think that is key. So do keep an eye on that. We would like an extra record media, but I wonder if going into the iPad might be your other way of recording it. I've got a Lightning to USB-C cable, but when I plugged it in, I couldn't get it to work. I think that's probably because I need the camera adapter on the iPad, and I haven't got one of those yet. So that's maybe more on that later. All in all, hats off to Zoom. They've done a great job. I'm not going to take my hat off, but hats off to Zoom. They've done a great job. It's very affordable. For many people, this would be a great first step into professional recording. For many professionals, you know, buy this, put it in your bag for a rainy day, or for when you don't want to carry any weight at all. It's a great bit of kit. Well done, Zoom. So thank you for watching PPM6 TV. Look out for the comparison between this, the more detailed comparison between this and the F4. Come back soon and keep leaving comments. It's very, very encouraging. Thanks, and see you later. Bye for now.